Well, hello, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And it's another McDuff's Minefields this week, up to number 258. And very, very happy to have you listen, whether you're live on Rumble or on my two YouTube channels that remain. That's McDuff Lives 2 and McDuff Lives 3, also live on X and archived on BitChute and Odyssey. So you can always find my old shows at BitChute, even the censored ones. It's called McDuff Uncensored, and everything is there for the past, I think, 3.5 years. Well, we are back from a amazing trip to DR, where we engaged in another of our health and nutrition retreats, and very, very profitable to us to be there. And, I'll just announce here on the show that this morning I got my latest PSA for my, my cancer diagnosis, and it is negligible. It's too low for them to report, and that is the way it's been now for the last three of them. So I will see the urologist on Friday, but that's tomorrow, and I think that we're going to have good news. So I feel terrific. Benefited greatly from all of the nutrition stuff that Marcia has been giving me over the past year and a half, and just loving life. It's a beautiful day, and I am happy. I don't know how one gets from despair to happiness so fast. But anyway, I wrote that in my latest Substack. If you'd like to check it out, just go to Substack, put my name, John O'Loughlin. Well, now I have another thing on my mind, and it's been on my mind for years, is where is all this flat earth stuff coming from, and why does it seem to be people out there really pushing it, like they want to get people hooked on it? And I'm not sure if the answer is because it's all a psyop, or whether it's really a a thing that people believe in. It's not unreasonable to believe that, especially to reject all of the claims of modern science, going to the Mars, bouncing these little Mars rovers off the thing. I mean, it wasn't it just a little bit comical to think that they were going to land these rovers like a golf ball hitting the green. Anyway, that's what they did, and that's what we believe. And we see these videos that could be made on some island up in northern Canada on a cloudy day, or it could be made on Mars. But we are, of course, certain that Mars is ours. It's just a matter of time, and Elon Musk is going to get us there as fast as possible. Why? Well, there's a good question, but that's not the topic for today. The topic for today is flat Earth, and what does it mean when we're interpreting the Bible? What does it mean to people today who perhaps want to bring in a new world order, which basically consists of the old Roman Empire, or the old empires of the Abbasids and all the rest of them, the Egyptians, of course, the Babylonians, the whole idea of there is a king or an emperor, and everybody else obeys him, and that's the way the world works. And how does flat Earth support that? Well, flat Earth was basically what anybody knew. It was the most sensible idea until modern abilities to measure the motion of the moons of Jupiter, for instance. That convinced a lot of people, and the science of it is now solid. It's just not possible that it be any other way, unless God snaps his fingers and says so. Even then, I think God would have a hard time making a real flat Earth. And Reminds me of our friends in Flatland. Remember when I was in high school that we got a little pamphlet called Flatland, and it was all about these creatures that were only rectangles or triangles, and they they would kind of move around on the page, but they didn't have any height. And conceive of that, and then think about well, there may be some more dimensions that we don't have because we're only three-dimensional, and so what if there's six-dimensional characters that are all just manipulating us like we don't even know it because we can't even imagine that they exist, just like those poor two-dimensional flatlanders could never imagine that you and I exist. Cheers. All righty. And thanks again if you're on Facebook. I see we have a Facebook like there. I like that thumbs up. And if you haven't joined my Facebook page, do that because it helps to support the channel's growth, and other people on Facebook will see it if the channel builds up. So I've never been censored on Facebook. I'm sure that's because I have a small reach right now. But nevertheless, just go ahead and join it. It's called McDuff Lives, and it's my Facebook channel. All right, now, our first reading today is taken from the book of Genesis, King James Version, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters, and God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, and that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, "Let the waters under the heaven be gathered together under one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Well, as you know, it goes on from there that God let the earth bring forth grass, the herb yielding seed, and the fruit tree yielding fruit after his kind, whose seed is in itself upon the earth. And it was so. Well, I think the firmament is the interesting passage for considering flat Earth, right? So, what God has this is waters. There's just like waters everywhere, and there was he created a space in the waters called the firmament, and in that firmament, that's his space. And the way he did it was he divided the waters below the firmament from the waters above the firmament. So when you look up in the sky, you're seeing waters. Those are all just waters that are above where you're standing at, the waters in the ocean are next to you. But God divided the waters in order to have this firmament, which is a dome. It's like a dome that you've probably seen in various contexts, including The Simpsons, one episode, of course. God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." All right. Now, that's the basic King James Version. And let's remember now, the King James Version is a document created on behalf of King James, right? King James, a divine right ruler, the first of the Stuart dynasty, the Scottish dynasty, that we've talked about the origins of that and the very interesting and suspicious events surrounding the death of Mary, Queen of Scots. But that's another show too. So King James is concerned that these radical Protestants are relying on the Bible instead of on what he says. And so he needs to have a Bible that will confirm, you know, render unto Caesar, come on, I'm the king. And so he convened one of the most remarkable groups of scholars ever convened to take the previous English and the old Latin from St. Jerome and the Greek and the Hebrew and the Aramaic and to produce a Bible for King James. And you can understand it in terms of, who's producing it for who and who's paying the bill. And this is a year's project. I don't remember how long it took, but you got to admit that the language is just gorgeous. Like my favorite passages, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares. That is good old English, and it just you can picture the beat on the sword, boom, with your hammer. So this glorious book, so well written, is spread everywhere, and that there's also, of course, the Calvinist Bible, the Geneva Bible, and other Bibles going around by now. But in the English-speaking world, if you want to get ahead, you go along with the Episcopal Church and the King James Bible, and that was the rule for anybody that wanted to get ahead in places like America. So now I want to introduce this very interesting essay by a man named Michael Behrends. It is called The Flat Earth Bible, and I'm going to share the text with you just so that in case you want to study it later. But you can find it too at his website, and let's see, which is cantab.net/users/Michael.Behrend, Behrend. And it's captioned under Appendix A, the Flat Earth Bible. And here we go. When I first became interested in the flat earthers in the early 1970s, let me check and make sure. Nope, I didn't get it shared this screen, did I? I'll start over. All right, there it is. When I first became interested in the flat earthers in the early 1970s, I was surprised to learn that flat earthism in the English-speaking world is and always has been entirely based upon the Bible. I have since assembled and read an extensive collection of flat earth literature. The biblical arguments for flat earthism that follow come mainly from my reading of flat earth literature, augmented by my own reading of the Bible. Except among biblical inerrantists, of course, inerrantists means the Bible is literally true, it is generally agreed that the Bible describes an immovable earth. At the 1984 National Bible Science Conference in Cleveland, geocentrist That's somebody that believes the earth is at the center of the universe. James N. Hansen told me that there are hundreds of scriptures that suggest the earth is immovable. I suspect some must be a bit vague, but here are a few obvious texts. And here they are. 1 Chronicles 16:30, quote, "He has fixed the earth firm, comma, immovable," unquote. Psalm 93, verse 1, "Thou hast fixed the earth immovable and firm." Psalm 96, verse 10, "He has fixed the earth immovable." Psalm 104, verse 5, "Thou didst fix the earth on its foundation so that it never can be shaken." Isaiah 45, verse 18, "Who made the earth and fashioned it, and himself fixed it fast." Suffice to say that the earth envisioned by flat earthers is as immovable as any geocentrist could desire. Most, perhaps all, scriptures commonly cited by geocentrists have also been cited by flat earthers. The flat earth view is geocentricity with further restrictions. Like geocentrists, flat earth advocates often give long lists of texts. Samuel Burley Rowbotham, founder of the modern flat earth movement, cited 76 scriptures in the last chapter of his monumental second edition of Earth Not a Globe. Now, I want to mention Samuel Burley Rowbotham is an Englishman. Okay. Now, this happens in the 19th century, the same time that you've got uh, Lytton writing about the Vril people and the Huxleys and the whole roots of our crazy psychology based on Freud. All of this is coming up at the same time as this guy is doing his flat Earth Bible thing. Is there anything suspicious about that? I don't know. And of course, that this guy is followed by Schofield in the Schofield Bible in 1907, which again is just such a revelation, if to use a a, a a word from the Bible, a revelation to me as to how crafty those British really are. Apostle Anton Darms, assistant to the Reverend Wilbur Glenn Voliva, America's best known flat earther, compiled 50 questions about the creation and the shape of the earth, bolstering his answers with up to 20 scriptures each. Rather than presenting an exhaustive compendium of flat earth scriptures, I focus on those which seem to me the strongest. I also comment on some attempts to find the earth's sphericity in the Bible. In other words, people are going to say that the Bible supports a spherical earth. Scriptural quotes, unless otherwise noted, are from the New English Bible. Hebrew and Greek translations are from Strong's exhaustive concordance of the Bible. The biblical cosmology is never explicitly stated, so it must be pieced together from scattered passages. The Bible is a composite work, so there is no a priori reason why the cosmology assumed by its various writers should be relatively consistent. But it is. The Bible is, from Genesis to Revelation, a flat earth book. This is hardly surprising, as neighbors, the ancient Hebrews had the Egyptians to the southwest and the Babylonians to the northeast. Both civilizations had flat earth cosmologies. The biblical cosmology closely parallels the Sumero Babylonian cosmology, and it may also draw upon Egyptian cosmology. The Babylonian universe was shaped like a modern domed stadium. Isn't that fun? Okay, the football stadium and just make it really, really big. Okay. The Babylonians considered the earth essentially flat with a continental mass surrounded by ocean. The vault of the sky was a physical object resting upon the ocean's waters, and perhaps upon pillars. Sweet, salt-free waters below the earth sometimes manifest themselves as springs. The Egyptian universe was also enclosed, but it was rectangular instead of round. Indeed, it was shaped much like an old-fashioned steamer trunk. Parentheses, the Egyptians pictured the goddess Nut, stretched across the sky as the enclosing dome. What was the Hebrew view of the universe? The order of creation, the Genesis creation story, provides the first key to the Hebrew cosmology. The order of creation makes no sense from a conventional perspective, but is perfectly logical from a flat earth viewpoint. The earth was created on the first day and was, quote, without form and void, unquote. On the second day, a vault, the firmament of the King James Version, was created to divide the waters, some being above and some below the vault. Only on the fourth day were the sun, moon, and stars created, and they were placed in, not above, the vault. The vault of heaven. The vault of heaven is a crucial concept. The word firmament appears in the King James Version of the Old Testament 17 times, and in each case it is translated from the Hebrew word rakia, which meant the visible vault of the sky. The word rakia comes from rikwa, meaning beaten out. In ancient times, brass objects were either cast in the form required or beaten into shape on an anvil. A good craftsman could beat a lump of cast brass into a thin bowl. Thus, Elihu asks Job, "Can you beat out the vault of the skies as he does, hard as a mirror of cast metal?" Elihu's question shows that the Hebrews considered the vault of heaven a solid physical object. Such a large dome would be a tremendous feat of engineering. The Hebrews, and supposedly Yahweh himself, considered it exactly that, and this point is hammered home by 5 scriptures. Job 9, verse 8, who by himself spread out the heavens. Psalm 19:1, the heavens tell out the glory of God, the vault of heaven reveals his handiwork. Psalm 102, verse 25, the heavens were thy handiwork. Isaiah 45, verse 12, I with my own hands stretched out the heavens and caused all their host to shine. Isaiah 48:13, with my right hand I formed the expanse of the sky. If these verses are about a mere illusion of a vault, they are surely much ado about nothing. Shamayim comes from shameh, a root meaning to be lofty. It literally means the sky. Other passages complete the picture of the sky as a lofty physical dome. God, quote, sits throned on the vaulted roof of earth, whose inhabitants are like grasshoppers. He stretches out the skies like a curtain. He spreads them out like a tent to live in. Chug, literally meaning circle or encompassed. By extension, it can mean roundness, as in the rounded dome or vault. Job 22:14 says God, quote, walks to and fro on the vault of heaven, the Chug. In both verses, the use of Chug implies a physical object, one on which one can sit and walk. Likewise, the context in both cases requires elevation. In Isaiah, the elevation causes the people below to look small as grasshoppers. In Job, God's eyes must penetrate the clouds to view the doings of humans below. Elevation is also implied by Job 22, verse 12. Surely God is at the zenith of the heavens, the Shemayim, and looks down on all the stars, high as they are. This picture of the cosmos is reinforced by Ezekiel's vision. The Hebrew word rakia appears 5 times in Ezekiel, four times in Ezekiel 1, verses 22 to 26, and once in Ezekiel 10, verse 1. In each case, the context requires a literal vault or dome. The vault appears above the quote, living creatures and glitters like a sheet of ice. Above the vault is a throne of sapphire or lapis lazuli. Seated on the throne is a form in human likeness, which is radiant and like the appearance of the glory of the Lord. In short, Ezekiel saw a vision of God sitting throned on the vault of heaven, as described in Isaiah 40, verse 22. The shape of the earth. Disregarding the dome, the essential flatness of the earth's surface is required by verses like Daniel 4, 10 to 11. In Daniel, the king, quote, saw a tree of great height at the center of the earth, reaching with its top to the sky and visible to the earth's farthest bounds. If the earth were flat, a sufficiently tall tree would be visible to the earth's farthest bounds. But this is impossible on a spherical earth. Likewise, in describing the temptation of Jesus by Satan, Matthew 4, verse 8 says, once again, the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world in their glory. Obviously, this would be possible only if the earth were flat. The same is true of Revelation 1, verse 7. Behold, he is coming with the clouds. Every eye shall see him. Every eye. Pardon me. The celestial bodies. The Hebrews considered the celestial bodies relatively small. The Genesis creation story indicates the size and importance of the earth relative to the celestial bodies in two ways. First, by their order of creation, and second, by their positional relationships. They had to be small to fit inside the vault of heaven. Small size is also implied by Joshua 10, verse 12, which says that the sun stood still in Gibeon and the moon in the vale of Ajalon. Further, the Bible frequently presents celestial bodies as exotic living beings. For example, in them, the heavens, a tent is fixed for the sun, who comes out like a bridegroom from his wedding canopy. Does that sound like Apollo or what? Okay. Rejoicing like a strong man to run his race. His rising is at one end of the heavens, his circuit touches their farthest ends, and nothing is hidden from his heat. Unquote. The stars are anthropomorphic demigods. When the earth's cornerstone was laid, quote, the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted aloud. Job 38. The morning star is censured for trying to set his throne above that of the other stars. Quote, you thought to your own mind, I will scale the heavens. I will set my throne high above the stars of God. I will sit on the mountain where the gods meet in the far recesses of the north. I will rise high above the cloud banks and make myself like the Most High. That's Isaiah 14, verses 13 to 14. Deuteronomy, chapter 4, verses 15 to 19, recognizes the godlike status of stars, noting that they were created for other peoples to worship. Stars can fall from the skies, according to Daniel 8, verse 10, and Matthew 24, verse 29. The same idea is found in the following extracts from Revelation 6, verses 13 to 16. The stars in the sky fell to the earth, like figs shaken down by a gale. The sky vanished as a scroll is rolled up. They called out to the mountains and the crags, quote, fall on us and hide us from the face of the one who sits on the throne, unquote. This is consistent with the Hebrew cosmology previously described, but it is ludicrous in the light of modern astronomy. If one star, let alone all the stars in the sky, fell on Earth, no one would be hollering from any mountain or crag. The writer considered the stars small objects, all of which could fall to the Earth without eradicating human life. He also viewed the sky as a physical object. The stars are inside the sky, and they fall before the sky opens. When it is whisked away, it reveals the one throned above. Of course, that's God sitting in his throne on top of the firmament. Weaker arguments is the next part. I think I'll skip it. I do like the spherical apologetics part, um, where people confronted by the contrast between modern science and biblical um, truths have tried to, square the circle or however you want to put it, uh, round the square. Spherical apologetics. Those who claim biblical support for a spherical earth typically ignore this forest of consistency and focus on one or two aberrant trees. Some take refuge in audacity. Henry Morris, president of the Institute for Creation Research, cites one of the more explicitly flat earth verses in the Old Testament, Isaiah 40, verse 22, the grasshopper verse, as evidence for the sphericity of the earth. Quoting the King James Version, he sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Morris ignores the context and the grasshoppers and claims circle should read sphericity or roundness. This divide and conquer strategy is poor scholarship and worse logic. Heroic efforts have been made by apologists to explain away the firmament, which encloses the celestial bodies, has waters above it, and is a masterpiece proving the Creator's craftsmanship. The late Harold Armstrong argued that it is empty Newtonian space, and that the waters above still surround the edges of the universe, though perhaps not in liquid form. This simply ignores difficulties and invents evidence. Gerardus Bow tried to identify the firmament as a mathematical plenum. In my view, it is a grave error to reinterpret ancient documents to force their authors to speak with modern voices. Gary Zukav and Fritjof Capra, for instance, read modern physics into the teachings of Eastern mysticism. I consider all such attempts equally suspect. Perhaps the scripture most frequently offered as evidence of the earth's sphericity is the King James Version of Job 26, verse 7. He stretches out the north over the empty place and hangeth the earth upon nothing. The New English Bible translates it, God spreads the canopy of the sky over chaos and suspends earth in the void. It is not clear what this means. The Hebrew saphon literally meant hidden or dark, and it was used in reference to the northern regions. Melima literally means nothing. That, quote unquote, nothing. That would contradict all of the scriptures which say the earth rests on foundations, but that interpretation is not necessary. Now, there were a number of other arguments in favor of the sphericity of the earth, but we are not going to indulge them. We do need to mention the Book of Enoch. The cosmology previously described is derived from the Bible itself, following the 19th century flat earthers. Some of the evidence is more ambiguous than we would like. Ambiguities in ancient documents can often be elucidated by consulting contemporary documents. The most important ancient document describing Hebrew cosmology is 1 Enoch, sometimes referred to as the Ethiopian Book of Enoch, one of those long disjointed scissors and paste jobs beloved by ancient scribes. For a dozen or so centuries, European scholars knew 1 Enoch only from numerous passages preserved in the patristic literature. In 1773, the Scottish adventurer James Bruce found complete copies in Ethiopia. Now, there's a footnote I'd like to look into. Who is this James Bruce? Was he a Freemason? And who paid for his trip? But that's just me. Numerous manuscripts of 1 Enoch have since been found in Ethiopian monasteries. Turn of the century scholars concluded that parts of the book are pre Maccabean, and most, perhaps all of it, was composed by 100 BC. These conclusions were largely vindicated when numerous fragments of 1 Enoch were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls at Qumran. Dead Sea Scrolls, um, another one, that's a rabbit hole. We can't just accept that, yeah, they found these accurate, real documents without some serious vetting. Nevertheless, most people are accepting of the fact that the Dead Sea Scrolls are accurate and genuine, so let's assume that for our authors. Argument. There have been two major English translations of 1 Enoch, the 1913 translation of R.H. Charles and the 1983 translation by E. Isaac. All the quotations that follow come from the newer translation. The importance of 1 Enoch, and remember it's 100 years BC, right, or older, has since been is poorly appreciated outside the scholarly community. Comparison of its text with the New Testament books reveals that many Enochian doctrines were taken over by early Christians. Isaac writes, there is little doubt that 1 Enoch was influential in molding New Testament doctrines concerning the nature of the Messiah, the Son of Man, the Messianic kingdom, demonology, the future, resurrection, final judgment, the whole eschatological theater, and symbolism. No wonder, therefore, that the book was highly regarded by many of the apostolic and church fathers. And there's a book of the picture of the cosmos as described in the book of Enoch. First Enoch influenced Matthew, Luke, John, Acts, Romans, and several other New Testament books. I didn't know that. Did you know that? This is news to me. The punishment of the fallen angels described in 2 Peter seems to come directly from 1 Enoch, as does much of the imagery or even wording in Revelation. That's interesting, isn't it? The Epistle of Jude contains the most dramatic evidence of its influence when it castigates enemies of religion as follows, it was to them that Enoch, the seventh in descent from Adam, directed his prophecy when he said, quote, I saw the Lord come with his myriads of angels to bring all men to judgment and to convict all the godless of all the godless deeds they had committed and of all the defiant words which godless sinners had spoken against him. The inner quote, 1 Enoch 1:9, is found in the original Hebrew on a recently published Qumran fragment. By attributing prophecy to Enoch, Jude confers inspired status upon the book. First Enoch is important for another reason. Unlike the canonical books of the Bible, which, in my view, were never meant to teach science, sections of 1 Enoch were intended to describe the natural world. The narrator sometimes sounds like a 2nd century BC Carl Sagan, explaining the heavens and earth to the admiring masses. The Enochian cosmology is precisely the flat earth cosmology previously derived from the canonical books. And then he goes on and proves it with a number of really detailed and interesting examples. Conclusion from their geographical and historical context, one would expect the ancient Hebrews to have a flat earth cosmology. Indeed, from the very beginning, ultra Orthodox Christians have been flat earthers, arguing that to believe otherwise is to deny the literal truth of the Bible. The flat earth implications of the Bible were rediscovered and popularized by English speaking Christians in the middle 19th century. Liberal scriptural scholars later derived the same view. Thus, students with remarkably disparate points of view independently concluded that the ancient Hebrews had a flat earth cosmology, often deriving this view from scripture alone. Their conclusions were dramatically confirmed by the rediscovery of 1 Enoch. And that is the conclusion of Michael Behrends in his essay on the Flat Earth Bible. So I enjoyed reading that a second time. It was not my intention to study in detail those biblical passages until I read them, and then I thought, "Wow, this really helps." Because number one, okay, when we think about the Enlightenment, when we think about the discovery Galileo on forward, when suddenly there became instruments able to see the measurements that require the universe to not be the Ptolemaic universe, and that the Earth, as proven centuries earlier by the ancient Greeks, had to be spherical. Um, those kind of things are secret knowledge. This is like gnosis, if you know what I mean. If you gnosis what I mean, that only the elites would have, people that could read and could read the reports of a Tycho Brahe or a Kepler. Without that education, then the earth is still flat, as far as you know. And so considering a flat earth as being the default position of the King James Bible, as well as the whole historical basis of Western civilization up until the Renaissance and the Enlightenment, to be more precise, the Scottish Enlightenment. With that Scottish Enlightenment came the conflict that is reflected in the Scopes monkey trial. But instead of the f the what's at stake being whether humans are derived from the apes, what's at stake is whether the Earth is flat or not. Now, a flat Earth, in that cosmology, served the purposes of all the ancient empires: the Babylonian Empire, the Egyptian Empire, the Roman Empire, and all the empires that existed that I can't even name them. Um, all over the Middle East. China had a flat Earth. I looked up before the show. The Mayans had a flat Earth with a vault. A flat Earth with a vault. That seems to be the default position of humanity from day one until the Greeks figured it out, and then humanity lost all that Greek knowledge until along comes Thomas Aquinas and all the nutcases that followed after him. So, why would anybody be pushing the flat Earth today? Why would they indeed, other than to resonate with what your parents have taught, what your grandparents and great grandparents and the family Bible that you may have inherited, and Freemasonic texts from that time. The idea that everything is orderly in God's universe under the spacious firmament on high, and that's you know what? I'm gonna look this up because indulge me for a second. The spacious. This is such an amazing thing because this is written by Joseph Addison. Joseph Addison was a, uh, a a poet, a writer, somebody that was employed by the Duke of Marlborough and the financial oligarchical powers that took power during Queen Anne's reign. Um, And this is written by him, and it's a hymn that's sung today in lots of Protestant churches. The spacious firmament, the spacious firmament on high, with all the blue ethereal sky and spangled heavens, a shining frame, right? Their great original proclaim. The unwearied sun from day to day does his creator's power display and publishes to every land the work of an almighty hand. Soon as the evening shades prevail, the moon takes up the wondrous tale, and nightly to the listening earth repeats the story of her birth, whilst all the stars that round her burn and all the planets in their turn confirm their tidings as they rowl and spread the truth from pole to pole. Oh, as they roll, it's just spelled funny. Confirm the tidings as they roll and spread the truth from pole to pole. What though in solemn silence all move round the dark terrestrial ball? What though nor real voice nor sound amid their radiant orbs be found? In reason's ear they all rejoice and utter forth a glorious voice, forever singing as they shine, the hand that made us is divine. Now, he has made the transition, okay? He's tying the flat earth firmament to modern science, which he knows is round earth. So he asks it like this, and spread, let's see, and the planets in their turn confirm the tidings as they roll and spread the truth from pole to pole. Okay, pole to pole. Some of the flat earthers have poles. That doesn't mean it's around Earth. But what though in solemn silence all move round the dark terrestrial ball? Okay, so he's just subtly putting the Earth, the ball Earth, into the biblical cosmology and gets everybody to sing it. Almighty Hands, and I think I'll leave it there. You can find that on YouTube, The Spacious Firmament on High, 300 voice mass choir. Beautiful music. I'm not sure who wrote the music, but let's see, does it give us? Nope, it doesn't tell us. Joseph Addison wrote the poem, and it's sang all over the place, all over the world to this day. So let's tie it all together with the idea that from the ancient times to King James creates the King James Bible to bridge from the ancient flat earth to modern science also being a biblical truth to the extent that the king would allow it, and let the Royal Society figure out the details because that's, of course, what they're here for. And we've read about them a lot also in the history of the 17th and 18th centuries from Graham Lowry's book, How the Nation Was Won. You can find that in my archives on BitChute and Rumble. Let's just say hello to everybody in the chat room before I go. I see there's a number of folks here, and let's see. Oh, Heidi has some objections. Okay. And Corky's here, and let's see. Okay, Heidi's got a handle on the truth, except for she got a little scatological there. So we got to say bye-bye. All right. Have a great afternoon. I will see you tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. with Marcia. We'll do a wrap up of our week in the Dominican Republic and new insights into nutrition, health, and fighting cancer. So don't miss it. See you tomorrow.